Hi everybody, Stephen Naughton with PrintCom, bringing you another quick video. Today's topic is cross-selling. I'm joined by the world famous Kevin Naughton. Kevin, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, so cross-selling, let's kind of jump right in here. Most people know what this is, but can you put a little bit of meat on the bone for folks that don't?
Okay, so cross-selling for most people means selling related products or services to their customers based on prior purchases. Sometimes the terms cross-selling and upselling get used interchangeably, but there are some subtle differences. The way I typically look at cross-selling is you're trying to sell or get them to purchase additional complementary products. If I'm selling women's apparel, the cross-sell is if someone buys a top, maybe I'm going to try to sell them a scarf or a blazer or a pair of shoes or some other accessory. Men's clothiers, if somebody buys a sport coat, we might try to sell them a tie or an extra shirt. If I'm in the building supply business, if someone buys deck boards, I might try to sell them patio furniture or deck lights. So I'm selling, cross-selling is kind of selling complementary stuff. An upsell, on the other hand, is trying to get someone to buy something that's more expensive. So if I'm a cruise operator, I might try to get them into a bigger cabin. If I run a gym, maybe I'm trying to get them into a higher level membership.
Cool. So probably a somewhat obvious answer, but what are some of the benefits of cross-selling, right? Like why would a company want to engage in cross-selling or upselling?
Well, the most obvious benefit is increased revenue. From a direct marketing standpoint, these sales are normally really high ROI. Customers respond at a higher rate than prospects do. And when you couple that with relevance principles, in this case, proposing something that's aligned with previous purchases, then a good percentage of your customers are going to bite. So that's why it ends up being really high ROI. Banks work cross-sells really hard. They toss out these really generous offers to get people to open a checking account. I've seen them in the hundreds of dollars, or jump to their credit card like with a low rate offer or some points or something. They then run a really good onboarding effort, especially the banks, and cross-sells efforts to get people to buy multiple products. There's an old marketing adage: if you can get customers to buy 3 or more lines, they're higher margin. I've seen that play out in several industries.
Sure. So obviously a lot of positives associated with cross-selling and upselling, right? Everybody wants more sales. Who wouldn't? But are there any drawbacks, right? What can be some of the dangers of, bad cross-selling or bad upselling?
Well, cross-selling, doesn't always work. And I would say typically when it doesn't work, it's because enough planning wasn't put into the effort ahead of time.
Sure.
If you're going to propose specific products to align with, for instance, let's say like clothing purchases, if you're going to go show images, like let's say I sell them a sport coat, now I'm going to show them specific shoes. A lot of time's going to need to be spent determining and mapping which products are potential cross-sells with specific products.
Sure.
I've seen this done on a hodgepodge basis, and it ends up looking dumb. Another like glaring example I saw somebody throw out on the web was like somebody, bought a swimsuit and they showed them an offer for a winter coat. Like, it looks dumb,
right,
and it's not aligned. I think the other potential drawback from cross-selling is you have to be careful not to cannibalize other sales. In other words, if you make too rich of an offer to get them to buy something secondary, or you actually deteriorating margin on something they would have bought anyway.
Sure.
But I think the pros outweigh the cons if it's done well.
Absolutely. So in all these videos, we try to have, kind of how folks would do this themselves, right? So that's kind of where I'm going to lead this next question. you kind of touched on, you know, when it's done well, you know, that we're pulling relevant pieces of information. You talked about, you know, selling a swimsuit doesn't make sense to try to sell a winter coat next to it. So how can you know, folks watching this video use, you know, what they have, you know, customer data or, you know, purchase data, to implement effective cross-selling? How do they go about doing that?
Okay. So I'm going to try to keep it on a real basic level for right now. The easiest way to get started is simply to present an offer for a complementary product line. So back to the clothing example, if they buy a blazer, show them an offer for accessories or shoes, not a particular pair of shoes or a particular scarf. Keep it simple. And I think in spreadsheets, that's just the way I'm wired up. Like, so you've got this spreadsheet, and let's just pretend that in column 1 on all the rows, you've got your different broad lines of product or departments. So blazers, accessories, shoes, boots, that kind of thing. And do the same thing going horizontally in the rows, or excuse me, in the columns. Then you kind of put X's in each of the boxes where there are potential, you know, synergies. So play the example out. For instance, let's say I'm selling winter clothing, shoes, boots, swimsuits, lingerie, accessories, etc. When I sell winter clothing, what else in that group might they buy? In this case, it's boots and accessories. So anytime someone buys winter clothing, I'm going to show them an offer for boots and an offer for accessories and not the other stuff. So using this kind of matrix mentality, you can take that and program that into a database. The transactional data comes over and, you know, gets combined with other characteristics. So, you know, I'm not trying to get too crazy, but like segment matters. Like you're not going to do a bunch of cross-selling maybe to some segments. I'm going to show them an offer based on all that. And the data can be constructed in a way that drives relevant emails or social or web pages or direct mail, any of those things. That's real simple, but I hope it makes it understandable. Now, honestly, this is an area where AI and data science can make a gigantic impact. It can help you decide who gets what and when they get it. If you use direct mail and you do episodic mailings, and by episodic we mean periodic,
sure,
this logic can be built into those. I see more folks doing these as triggered mailings. In other words, on a daily or weekly basis, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's like, definitely. Okay, they bought, and now while there's demonstrated interest, we get them into a file export that contains all the data on who ought to be mailed to and what they're actually seeing.
Sure.
You know, variable data has a huge role in that.
Absolutely. So you kind of touched on images and products, right? That obviously varies from, you know, organization to organization. But, you know, what does some of the messaging and maybe even creative tactic, you know, can you jump into that a little bit? Like how does somebody go about developing, you know, the proper messaging and creative to accompany those messages?
Well, this is an area where your brain can really start smoking. A lot of thought needs to get given to this so it all ends up looking right. You know, I heard someone say, good variable data is powerful, but there's nothing worse than bad variable data. So messages, creative, and offers all need to become part of the logic or the matrix development. Some of the content's going to be based on segment. Some of the messaging or content's going to be based on the product line or the department, and some based on location or other factors, you know, particularly for those that, you know, have brick and mortar outlets or, you know, dealers or whatever. We typically see clients develop base creative, often with multiple versions and with some certain components, areas, whatever, that are going to swap out. The templates for these types of projects tend to be really big white boxes, figuratively speaking. Mm-hmm. Logic gets embedded in them that pulls in images and offers based on the interaction with the recipient's data characteristics or store location characteristics. I'm not trying to make this sound hard. I'm trying to make it sound easy, but there is, you know, some degree of complexity to it for sure.
Sure. So, you know, any marketer is probably measuring, you know, simply things like ROI or maybe incremental lift. Some get a lot deeper into the weeds than that. But how does somebody go about, you know, effectively testing whether this worked or not, right? Did the effort, you know, actually create any lift for you?
Yeah, so there definitely need to be some measurement systems in place, both in the testing phase and when it's rolled out, you know, and actually being used live. So probably the easiest way to analyze response is by using offer codes, which can be like price lookup codes or SKUs that can either be, you know, literal numbers or barcodes or whatever. If you have a unique set of codes associated with the cross-selling promos, by analyzing how the offers are redeemed, it can give you real insights into how often they work and to what extent they work. You can make, you know, decisions on that basis. Once again, this is an area where data science or AI can be very helpful. Constructing good dashboards and analytics are, you know, really musts. They're extremely important.
Sure. If you're going to measure it, you know, if you're going to make sure it works, you got to measure it, right?
Right.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate the insights today. That kind of brings us to the end of the questions here. But if anybody has any deeper questions or want to, you know, a further understanding of anything we talked about today, you can find more information on printcom.com. That's printcomm.com. Or give us a call, 810-239-5763. Would love to take a deeper dive with anybody that'd like to. So thanks again, Kevin. And thanks so much for tuning into the video, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.